My stepsister crashed my engagement party, accused my fiancé of being her baby's father, but the DNA results exposed who was truly lying. I'm 27 years old, female, and I've been with my fiancé, 30 years old, male, for 4 years now. Let's call him Alex. We met through mutual friends, and honestly, it was one of those rare situations where everything just clicked. Alex is kind, hardworking, and the kind of guy who remembers little details about people. He's always been my rock, and I truly thought he was a total win. We've been planning our wedding for months now, and this engagement party was supposed to be a celebration of all the love and effort we've put into building our life together. Enter Kara. She's my 32-year-old stepsister, and if I had to sum up our relationship in one word, it'd probably be tense. We're not close and never have been. Kara and I grew up in the same house after my mom married her dad when I was 10. Kara was already a teenager then, and she made it clear from day one that she wasn't interested in having a little stepsister. Over the years, she developed this habit of blaming me for everything that went wrong in her life. If she failed a test, somehow it was my fault. If her boyfriend dumped her, she'd accuse me of flirting with him, even though I had zero interest. It's like she always needed someone to point the finger at, and that person was usually me. As we got older, things didn't improve. Kara got married to a guy named Matt in her late 20s, and for a while it seemed like she was settling down. But then her marriage fell apart, and true to form, she blamed me for it. Her logic? I wasn't supportive enough during her rough times, whatever that means. She didn't speak to me for months after her divorce, which, honestly, I didn't mind. Kara has this way of draining the energy out of every room she's in, and it felt like I could finally breathe without her constant negativity. Despite all that, I decided to invite her to my engagement party. I know, it sounds stupid, but I wanted to be the bigger person. I figured maybe this could be a fresh start for us, or at the very least a way to keep the peace for the sake of our parents. When I sent her the invite, Kara gave me some vague excuse about having other plans and said she wouldn't be able to make it. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. I felt relieved, thinking the event would go smoothly without her drama. The party itself was everything I'd hoped for, at least at the start. Friends, family, and even some of Alex's co-workers were there to celebrate with us. People were mingling, laughing, and enjoying themselves. Alex and I were walking around, talking to everyone and soaking up all the love and support. Then, just as I was starting to relax and think, wow, this night is perfect, the doors to the venue slammed open. I swear, it felt like something out of a movie. Everyone turned to see Kara standing there with her 5-year-old son, my nephew, in her arms. Let's call him Ethan. She was holding him up like some kind of trophy, and the look on her face was this weird mix of anger and triumph. The room went completely silent, and all I could think was, what the hell is she doing here? I tried to play it cool and greeted her with a polite smile, even though my stomach was doing flips. I figured she'd just come to cause a scene, but I had no idea what she was about to pull. Before I could say much, she brushed past me like I didn't exist and marched straight to the front of the room. She grabbed the microphone we'd been using for toasts and announced that she had something important to say. At that moment, I felt like the ground beneath me was starting to crumble. Without any hesitation, she started her speech. I know this isn't my party, she began, her voice cutting through the music and chatter. But I need to say something important, something everyone here deserves to know. The room went silent as all eyes turned toward her. I could see the confusion on people's faces, like this was a prank or some joke. But then she said, "Alex is the father of my son, Ethan." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I froze. My mind couldn't process what she'd just said. Alex, the father of Ethan? Kara didn't stop there. Yes, you heard me right, she continued, pointing at me. Alex and I were together when this lady swooped in and stole him from me. The murmurs started immediately. People were whispering to each other, clearly trying to figure out if what she was saying could possibly be true. I could feel dozens of eyes on me, burning with curiosity and judgment. Kara went on, gesturing dramatically toward Ethan, who was standing near her. This little boy is proof of what I'm saying. Alex and I were in a relationship when she came along and destroyed what we had. She didn't care that we were together, didn't care that I was pregnant. She just wanted him for herself. Kara, clearly energized by the attention, kept building on her story. I stayed silent for years, she said, faking emotion. I didn't want to ruin their relationship, but I can't do this anymore. I can't keep living a lie. At that point, someone in the back muttered, "This is insane." I think people were partially enjoying the drama. My mom looked horrified, her face pale as she stared at Kara in disbelief. Alex's co-workers, who'd come to support him, were whispering furiously among themselves, clearly unsure of what to make of the situation. Then Kara pulled out her phone. "If you don't believe me, I have proof," she said, waving it in the air. "I have text messages from Alex. Look at these. He and I were talking right around the time he met her." She scrolled through her phone, pretending to show people messages, though no one got a clear look at anything. "See?" she said, holding up the screen. "He told me he cared about me, that he wanted to be there for Ethan, but she pointed directly at me, took him away." Kara wasn't done. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "And if that's not enough," she said, holding it up like a trophy, "I have this, a paternity test that proves Alex is Ethan's father." The room collectively held its breath. My cousin leaned over to his wife and whispered something. A few people near the back started murmuring louder, and one of Alex's friends said, "What the hell is going on?" loud enough for everyone to hear. By this point, Alex had stepped forward. "Kara, that's enough," he said, trying to grab the mic from her, but she pulled back, refusing to let go. "No, Alex," she said, glaring at him. "You don't get to hide from this anymore. Everyone deserves to know the truth. And me, I just stood there frozen. I couldn't think, couldn't speak, couldn't even move. It felt like the floor had dropped out from under me, and I was free-falling with no idea where I'd land." Finally, one of Alex's coworkers stepped forward. "Look, maybe this isn't the time or place," he said, trying to defuse the situation. But Kara wasn't having it. "No, this is exactly the time and place," she said, her voice rising. "I've kept quiet for too long, and I'm done pretending everything is fine. Alex and OP built their relationship on lies, and it's about time everyone knew the truth." At that point, the room was buzzing with whispers and murmurs. Some people looked at Alex with suspicion, others glanced at me like they were waiting for me to say something. My mom finally stood up and tried to approach Kara, but Kara brushed her off, saying, "Don't act like you didn't know. You're just as guilty for letting this happen." Eventually, I snapped out of my daze and told Kara she needed to leave. She refused, of course, and kept going with her speech, calling me manipulative and selfish. I finally had to get the venue staff involved to escort her out. By the time she was gone, the party was completely ruined. People started leaving, and I didn't have the energy to stop them. Alex and I thanked the remaining guests for coming and wrapped things up early. That night, all I could think about was Kara's words. Could there be any truth to what she said? Was Alex hiding something from me? I didn't know what to believe, but one thing was clear. My perfect engagement party had turned into an absolute disaster. When we got home, Alex and I didn't talk right away. I needed to gather my thoughts before confronting him because I didn't want to explode and make things worse. But Alex? He was visibly tense, pacing back and forth in the living room like he was bracing for a storm. Finally, I broke the silence. "Alex, what the hell was that?" I asked. "Is there any truth to what she said?" He froze for a moment. "Kara's just trying to stir up drama. You know how she is," he said, avoiding eye contact. "That wasn't enough for me. Don't do that. Don't make this about her. I need to hear it from you. Did you ever have anything with Kara?" He was struggling to find the words. Finally, he admitted it. "Okay, yes, I did, but it was a long time ago, way before you and I even started dating. It was just a short fling, and I barely even remember it." I asked him, "And you never thought to mention this to me? You've been around her at family events. You knew who she was, and you didn't think that was something I should know?" "I didn't think it mattered," he said defensively. "It was years ago, and it was meaningless. I didn't want to bring it up and cause unnecessary tension between you two." I couldn't believe it. "Alex, that's not your call to make. You had a fling with my stepsister and you thought I'd just never find out? You don't think that's something I deserve to know before we got engaged?" He started pacing again. "I didn't think it would ever come up. Kara and I haven't spoken for years. I swear, I had no idea she was pregnant or that she thought I was the father." The room felt like it was spinning. On one hand, I wanted to believe him. He looked genuinely confused and upset, and I'd never had a reason to doubt him before, but on the other hand, how could I trust him now? He'd kept this huge secret from me, and now Kara was claiming their fling had resulted in a child. My mind was racing with questions. Could Alex really be Ethan's father? Why would Kara bring this up now after all these years? And what was I supposed to do with this information? I couldn't bear to be near him at that moment. "I need some space," I told him. I went to the guest room, leaving Alex standing alone in the living room. The next morning, Alex tried to talk to me again, but I wasn't ready. "I just need time," I told him. He gave me space, but I could see the frustration in his eyes. He wanted to move past this quickly, but for me, this wasn't something that could be swept under the rug. As the day went on, I started thinking about Kara's ex-husband, Matt. He and Kara had been married around the time Ethan was born, and everyone assumed he was Ethan's father. But if Alex had slept with Kara before Ethan was born, then there was a chance Kara was telling the truth, or at least part of it. I decided to reach out to Matt to see if he knew anything. Now, reaching out to Matt was awkward, to say the least. We weren't close, and I wasn't even sure how he felt about me after everything that had gone down between him and Kara. But I figured I had nothing to lose, so I found his number and gave him a call. "Hey Matt, it's Kara's stepsister," I said. "I know this is out of nowhere, but I need to talk to you about something important." "Yeah, I remember you," he replied. "What's going on? Is everything okay?" "Well, not exactly," I admitted. "It's about Ethan. Kara showed up at my engagement party last night and claimed my fiancé, Alex, is Ethan's father. She brought out a paternity test and everything." I could almost feel Matt processing what I just said. "Wait, she claimed your fiancé is Ethan's father? Seriously?" "Yeah," I replied. "She made this huge scene in front of everyone. Alex swears it's not true, but I don't know what to believe anymore. I figured if anyone could shed some light on this, it'd be you." Matt let out a bitter laugh. "Wow. I don't even know what to say. Honestly, I've had my doubts about being Ethan's dad for a long time, but every time I brought it up to Kara, she'd shut me down, call me paranoid, and say I was just looking for an excuse to bail on my responsibilities. After a while, I stopped pushing because, well, what was the point?" His words hit me like a ton of bricks. "So, you've never done a paternity test?" I asked. "No," he admitted. "I probably should have, but at the time, I thought it'd just make things worse. I figured even if he wasn't mine, I'd still have to deal with Kara, and honestly, I didn't want to give her another reason to make my life hell. But now I'm starting to think I made a mistake." "Do you think you'd be willing to get a paternity test now?" I asked. "I know it's a lot to ask, but I think it's the only way to figure out what's really going on." Matt didn't hesitate. "You know what? Yeah, I'm done living in the dark. If Ethan's not mine, I want to know. And if he is mine, at least I'll have some clarity. I'll call my lawyer and get the ball rolling." The next few days felt like an eternity. Matt wasted no time arranging for the paternity test, and while I appreciated his urgency, it only made me more anxious. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, half expecting it to be an update from Matt. Meanwhile, things at home with Alex were tense. He wasn't thrilled that I'd involved Matt, and he made it clear he thought I was overreacting. "I don't get why you're dragging Matt into this," Alex said one night. "This has nothing to do with him. Kara's just trying to mess with us." "Alex, this has everything to do with him," I shot back. "If Matt's not Ethan's father, then there's a chance you might be. Don't you want to know the truth?" "I already told you, it's not possible," he said, his tone defensive. "Kara's lying. She's always lying." "Then why are you so scared of the test results?" I asked, narrowing my eyes. "If you're so sure this should be a non-issue." Alex didn't have a good answer for that. He just muttered something under his breath and left the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts. Finally, after what felt like forever, Matt got the results back. He called me the same day, his voice laced with a mix of anger and exhaustion. "Well," he said, "it's official. I'm not Ethan's father." I was completely shocked even though I'd been expecting this outcome. "I'm so sorry, Matt," I said, unsure of what else to say. "Don't be," he replied. "Honestly, I feel more relief than anything. But now I've got a whole new problem on my hands. I've already called my lawyer to start the process of suing Kara for all the child support she's taken from me over the years. I'm done being her scapegoat." "Do you think she knew all along?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Of course she knew," Matt said bitterly. "She's been playing this game for years, and now that it's blowing up in her face, she's scrambling to shift the blame onto everyone else. Like you, apparently." After we hung up, I felt like my world was spinning even faster. Everything Kara had done started making sense in the worst possible way. She had been lying and manipulating everyone for years, and now her little web of lies was unraveling. But instead of feeling relief, I felt sick because if Matt wasn't Ethan's dad, then there was a very real chance Alex was. When I told Alex about the results, his reaction didn't help. "So, Matt's not the father." "Big deal," he said with a shrug, like it wasn't a monumental piece of information. "That doesn't mean anything about me." "Alex, it means everything," I snapped. "If Matt's not the father, then who else could it be? You already admitted to sleeping with Kara. This isn't some random accusation anymore. It's serious." He seemed frustrated. "I already told you I'm not Ethan's father. I don't know why you're letting her get in your head like this. I'm not letting her get in my head, I shot back. I'm trying to figure out the truth. Why are you so against taking a paternity test? If you're so sure, then prove it. That's when he crossed the line. You're letting Kara manipulate you, he started yelling. You're acting just as crazy as she is. That word crazy hit me like a slap to the face. It was the kind of thing people said when they wanted to shut you down, to make you feel like you were overreacting when you knew you weren't. I couldn't even look at him after that. I just walked away and shut myself in the guest room, where I'd been sleeping ever since the engagement party. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't focus on anything, work, friends, even basic chores. My mind was consumed with questions and what-ifs. Meanwhile, Alex and I barely spoke. Every time I tried to bring up the paternity test, he shut me down, saying I needed to trust him and stop letting Kara ruin what we have. But how could I trust him when he was refusing to do the one thing that could clear his name? And Kara, she was still stirring the pot. She'd started texting and calling me non-stop, flipping between playing the victim and throwing insults my way. Then things took an even darker turn. Matt, true to his word, filed a lawsuit against Kara to recover the child support payments he'd been making for years. But he didn't stop there. His lawyer started digging into Kara's finances and her parenting situation, and what they found wasn't pretty. Kara had been hiding debts, lying about her income, and using the child support money on herself rather than Ethan. It was enough to get CPS involved. I found out about all this from my mom, who called me in a panic one evening. CPS took Ethan, she said. They said Kara's unfit to care for him right now. Your stepdad and I are trying to get temporary custody, but it's a mess. Hearing that broke my heart. As much as I despised Kara, Ethan was an innocent child caught in the middle of all this chaos. He didn't deserve to be dragged into his mom's lies and poor decisions. Is he okay? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He's scared, but he's with us now, my mom said. We're doing everything we can to make him feel safe. I felt a wave of relief knowing Ethan was with my mom and stepdad. But the situation only made everything feel more overwhelming. Not only was my relationship with Alex hanging by a thread, but now there was a little boy whose entire world had been turned upside down because of Kara's actions. Finally, after days of back-and-forth arguments, Alex agreed to take a paternity test, but he didn't do it willingly. He only caved after I told him I couldn't move forward with our relationship unless he did. Fine, he said, throwing his hands up in frustration. If it'll make you happy, I'll do the damn test, but I'm telling you, this is a waste of time. The way he said it made me feel small, like I was being unreasonable for wanting answers, but I didn't let it stop me. We made the appointment, and I went with him to the clinic, even though he clearly didn't want me there. The whole process was quick, but the tension between us was unbearable. He barely looked at me the entire time. Waiting for the results was pure agony. I felt like my entire future hinged on a single piece of paper, and the uncertainty was eating me alive. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think about anything else. Alex, on the other hand, acted like everything was fine. He went about his day as if nothing had happened, which only made me more frustrated. How could he be so calm when everything was falling apart? Meanwhile, Kara was falling apart in her own way. Losing custody of Ethan seemed to be her breaking point. She started lashing out at everyone. Me, Matt, even my mom. She sent me this long, rambling voicemail about how I'd ruined her life, taken her son away, and destroyed her only chance at happiness. It was full of contradictions. One minute she was begging me to help her. The next she was calling me selfish and vindictive. I didn't bother responding. There was nothing I could say that would make her take responsibility for her actions. After days of tension, snide remarks, and awkward silences, things between Alex and me finally boiled over. It started like the other arguments we'd been having lately, with me calmly trying to explain why the paternity test was necessary. But this time, Alex didn't just brush me off. He exploded. "I already told you," he shouted, slamming his hand on the kitchen counter. "I'm not doing this. I'm not jumping through hoops just because Kara decided to stir up drama at our engagement party. Why can't you trust me?" "Trust you," I snapped. "You lied to me about Kara. You didn't tell me you'd been with her, even though you knew she was in my life, and now there's a child involved. Alex, how am I supposed to just take your word for it?" He let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. "This isn't about me. This is about you letting Kara manipulate you. She's been playing you since day one, and now you're letting her destroy us." "No, Alex," I said. "This is about you refusing to take accountability. You're so scared of what the test might say that you're willing to risk our entire relationship. If you're so sure Ethan isn't yours, why are you so afraid to prove it? I'm not afraid, he shouted, throwing his hands in the air. I'm just sick of you treating me like the bad guy. I've done nothing but love you, and now you're acting like I'm some liar who's been hiding things from you. Because you have been hiding things, I shot back. You didn't tell me about Kara. You didn't tell me about your fling with her, and now you're refusing to take a test that could give us clarity. How am I supposed to trust someone who keeps secrets like that? Alex's face turned red, and for a moment I thought he might try to storm out. Instead, he pointed at me. You're the one who's ruining this relationship, not me. You're the one who's letting Kara win. That was it for me. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door, tears streaming down my face. You know what, Alex? Maybe Kara isn't the problem. Maybe it's you. Because right now, you're proving that you care more about your pride than you do about me. Don't do this, he said, his tone softening as I opened the door. You're overreacting. I told him. I'm done waiting for you to step up. If you won't take the test, then I can't be here anymore. And with that, I left. That night, I crashed at my friend Sarah's place. Sarah is one of those no-nonsense, tell-it-like-it-is friends. I was a complete mess when I dropped by her house. She took one look at me and wrapped me in a hug, letting me cry into her shoulder. Let me guess, she said once I'd calmed down. He still won't take the test? He keeps saying it's unnecessary, that I'm overreacting, I replied. But all I want is the truth. Is that too much to ask? Not at all, Sarah said firmly. He's being defensive because he's scared, and honestly, if he won't do this one simple thing to give you peace of mind, then maybe he's not the guy you thought he was. Her words stung, but I knew she was right. Over the next few days, I tried to focus on myself, but Alex's texts and calls kept coming. At first, they were apologetic. I'm sorry for how I handled things. I don't want to lose you. But as the days went on, his tone shifted to frustration. This is ridiculous. I can't believe you're letting Kara come between us. Each message only made me more certain that I couldn't go back until he agreed to take the test. The day after I left Alex, my mom called with an update about Ethan. We've officially got temporary custody, she said, relief evident in her voice. CPS is still evaluating the situation, but for now, Ethan's staying with us. I felt a wave of relief knowing Ethan was in safe hands. Then, a few days later, Kara showed up at my mom's house. She was hysterical, banging on the door and screaming about how she needed to see Ethan. My mom called me right after it happened, still shaken. She looked terrible, my mom said, like she hadn't slept in days. I told her she couldn't come in, that she needed to go through the proper channels if she wants visitation, but she just kept yelling about how it's all your fault, that you've turned everyone against her. Hearing that made my blood boil. Kara had been the architect of her own downfall, yet she still couldn't take responsibility for her actions. Instead, she was doubling down on blaming me for everything, as if I'd forced her to lie about Ethan's paternity or mismanage her finances. But as much as I wanted to confront her, I knew it wouldn't accomplish anything. Kara was never going to admit she was wrong, and engaging with her would only add fuel to the fire. So, I kept my distance. 3 days after our fight, Alex called me. Fine, he said, his voice heavy. If this is what it takes to fix things, I'll do the damn test, but I'm telling you right now, it's a waste of time. I forced myself to stay calm. Thank you, I said quietly. When can we schedule it? We made the appointment for the next day, and I met him at the clinic. The tension between us was suffocating. He didn't look at me once as we waited. When it was finally his turn, he went through the process like it was the most inconvenient thing in the world. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him that this wasn't just about him, it was about us, about our future, but I bit my tongue. When it was over, he walked out of the clinic without saying a word. I followed him to the parking lot, hoping he might say something, but he just got in his car and drove off. Waiting for the results was torture. I couldn't think about anything else. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart leapt into my throat. Even though I knew the results wouldn't come in for a few days, Sarah tried to keep me distracted. But nothing could take my mind off the possibility that Alex might be Ethan's father. Alex, meanwhile, acted like nothing was wrong. He texted me occasionally, but his messages were short and curt, like he was still mad at me for pushing him into this. It only made me angrier. How could he be so indifferent when everything was falling apart? When the results finally came in, we met at our house, and I felt like I was going to throw up. My hands were shaking as I opened the envelope, and Alex stood across the room, his arms crossed and his face set in a scowl. See, he said, I told you this was a waste of... I cut him off, my voice breaking as I read the paper. You're his dad, Alex. His face went pale. "What? That's not... That can't be right," he stammered, snatching the paper from my hands. But there it was, in black and white, undeniable proof. He sank into a chair, his head in his hands. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I swear to God, I didn't know." His words were like a knife to my chest. I wanted to believe him, to believe that we could somehow get through this together, but deep down, I knew the trust between us was gone. "You might not have known about Ethan," I said, tears streaming down my face, "but you knew about Kara. You lied to me about her, and now there's a child involved. How am I supposed to move forward from this?" Alex looked up at me, his eyes filled with desperation. "We can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't leave me." But I couldn't. The trust was gone, and I knew it wasn't coming back. Without another word, I grabbed my bag and walked out the door, leaving Alex behind to face the reality he'd fought so hard to avoid. After all this, Kara's situation kept getting worse. Matt's lawsuit was moving forward, and from what I heard, his lawyer was relentless. Not only was Matt seeking to recover the child support he'd paid over the years, but he was also pushing for damages related to emotional distress. Kara's financial troubles were mounting, and with CPS still involved, she had little hope of regaining custody of Ethan anytime soon. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a little satisfaction watching Kara's lies catch up to her. For years, she'd blamed me for everything wrong in her life, painting herself as the victim while tearing me down in the process. But now, she couldn't escape the consequences of her actions. While I felt sorry for Ethan, I couldn't bring myself to feel the same for her. As the days turned into weeks, I started to come to terms with the fact that my life would never go back to the way it was before the engagement party. Kara's accusations and the paternity test weren't things I could just forget or sweep under the rug. They had fundamentally changed my relationship with Alex, my family, and even myself. In the months that followed, I moved out of the apartment I'd shared with Alex and found a small place of my own. It wasn't much, but it was mine, a fresh start. Sarah was a constant support system, reminding me that I deserved better and helping me stay focused on my goals. I started going to therapy, which was a game changer. For the first time in years, I felt like I was truly processing everything I'd been through, from my rocky relationship with Kara to the heartbreak of losing Alex. Looking back, I realized that walking away from Alex wasn't just about the lies or the mistrust. It was about choosing myself, my happiness, my peace of mind, over a relationship that had become toxic. It was about breaking free from the drama and chaos that had consumed my life for so long. I haven't heard anything about Alex since our last fight. Kara, on the other hand, was still fighting an uphill battle. She'd burned so many bridges that even her closest allies had turned their backs on her. I didn't take any pleasure in her suffering, but I also didn't feel obligated to help her. For once, I was prioritizing myself, and it felt good. Now, months later, I'm in a much better place. I've started dating again, though I'm taking things slow this time. I finally feel like I'm living for myself instead of trying to please everyone else. The scars from everything that happened are still there, but they're healing. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, all I can say is this: trust your gut. If something feels off, don't ignore it. And never be afraid to choose yourself, even if it means walking away from someone you love. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that lead to the most growth.